Each of us has, at one time or another, stuck our foot in our mouths. Well, I've never done it. We've said things, and the moment those words left our mouths, we wished we could grab them and stuff them back in. Or perhaps we wrote an email and accidentally sent it to the wrong person. Today on Against the World, I will be mentioning a few of these Freudian slips or moments of candor offered up by atheists and evolutionists, in which they admit their own bias or in a moment of clarity spoke the foolishness of their own worldview. We'll be back in just a moment.
This segment of Against the World is brought to you by Reformed Presbyterian Missions. If you have the desire to reach the world for Christ, or if you would like to help finance gospel outreach all over the world, then visit our friends at Reformed Presbyterian Missions by going to their website, rpmissions.org. And by our good friend Brett Morris. Thank you so much, brother, for being a sponsor.
Professor Richard Lewontin, a geneticist and self-proclaimed Marxist, is a renowned champion of neo-Darwinism and certainly one of the world's leaders in evolutionary biology. On January 9, 1997, in the New York Review, he wrote an article that illustrates the implicit philosophical bias he has against the biblical account of creation, and which he admits he embraces regardless of whether or not the facts support it. And I quote, "We take the side of science in spite of the patent absurdity of some of its constructs, in spite of its failure to fulfill many of its extravagant promises of health and life, in spite of the tolerance of the scientific community for unsubstantiated just-so stories, because we have a prior commitment, a commitment to materialism. It is not that the methods and institutions of science somehow compel us to accept a material explanation of the phenomenal world, but on the contrary, that we are forced by an a priori adherence to material causes to create an apparatus of investigation and a set of concepts that produce material explanations. No matter how counterintuitive, no matter how mystifying to the uninitiated. Moreover, that materialism is an absolute for us, for we cannot allow a divine foot in the door," unquote. Michael Roos, currently at Florida State University, is a leading anti-creationist and the author of numerous books including The Darwinian Revolution and Darwinism Defended. He wrote, and I quote, "Evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a full-fledged alternative to Christianity with meaning and morality. I am an ardent evolutionist and an ex-Christian, but I must admit that in this one complaint, the literalists, and by that he means Christians, are absolutely right. Evolution is a religion. This was true of evolution in the beginning, and it is true of evolution still today," unquote. Ironically, Professor Roos has attempted to stuff those words back into his mouth and has written an article to explain evidently what he meant. You can find it on the internet. I wasn't impressed. The late Sir Fred Hoyle, who was professor of astronomy at Cambridge University and no friend of biblical Christianity, said this, and I quote, "Now imagine 10 to the 50th power of blind persons. That's 100,000 billion people standing shoulder to shoulder, and that would more than fill our entire planetary system, each with a scrambled Rubik Cube, and try to conceive of the chance of them all simultaneously arriving at the solved form. You then have the chance of arriving, by random shuffling of just one of the many biopolymers on which life depends. The notion that not only the biopolymers, but the operating program of a living cell could be arrived at by chance in a primordial soup here on Earth is evidently nonsense of a high order, unquote. Thomas Nagel, an American philosopher and currently professor of philosophy and law at New York University, wrote this in his book, The Last Word, quote, "I want atheism to be true, and am made uneasy by the fact that some of the most intelligent and well-informed people I know are religious believers. It isn't just that I don't believe in God and naturally hope that I'm right in my belief. It's that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that," unquote. Well, my friends, I hope you can see from this that there is biasm in the scientific community. It's not absolute, and it has a tendency to believe made-up stories just because they refuse to acknowledge the God of the Bible. They refuse to acknowledge any idea of a creator. So allow me to close with this quote. "A disbelief in God does not result in a belief in nothing. Disbelief in God usually results in a belief in anything. And the end result is chaos." Until next week, this is Jerry Johnson standing contra mundum against the world.